Many new entrepreneurs focus entirely on making sales without stopping to look at their gross profit margins to assess the performance of their business. In today's video, I want to look at why gross profit margin is the most important number you need to be aware of in your business. Let's get started. Hello there and welcome to another episode of the Ndalama Insights with Mukonki Mukonkela, where we turn your challenges into actionable insights. In my previous two videos, I spoke about how you can go about setting your prices correctly and how you can retain control of your costs so as to run a profitable business. Today, I want us to focus on the most important number that you need to be aware of when assessing the performance of your business. This number is gross profit. Gross profit looks at the value that you add to your product or services before selling them to your customers. If you look at gross profit, you can also take a look at it from the angle of the difference between your selling price, that is the price that you sell your products at, minus the direct expenses that are involved in producing the product or service that you are delivering. That is why gross profit margin can also be referred to as the value that you are adding on your product or services. For example, if you take a raw material such as wood and process it into something different like a table, that gives you the value that you are adding on the raw material in order for you to produce the table. The difference between that value that you've added on the raw material, which is the wood, in order for you to produce the table, gives you the gross profit. So the difference between the costs you've incurred in producing that table minus the price you are selling the table at gives you the gross profit margin, or in other words, represents the value that you're actually adding to that product or service. And therefore, different companies actually have different sales prices for their products or services depending on the value that they are adding to the raw materials that they are using in producing their finished or final product that they are selling. So gross profit margin is the difference between the sales price and the direct costs, such as the direct labor and raw materials that are involved in producing the product or service that you're delivering to your customers. And this represents the value that you are adding to the raw materials so as to produce the final product. So competitors can have different prices for the final product depending on the value they've added to the raw materials as they produce the product or the service. Now, why is gross profit margin the most important metric you need to be aware of, especially if you are a new entrepreneur? I'm going to look at 3 reasons. And the first and most important reason is that gross profit margin helps you to manage your prices as well as your expenses. It helps you to identify any problems with your pricing as well as your costs. So let's take a look at an example. Supposing your sales volumes are okay, but your gross profit margin is low. What could be the problem? Well, you need to look at 2 numbers, and the numbers are your sales prices as well as your direct costs, because these are the 2 numbers that are important in determining your gross profit. So where your sales volumes are okay, but your gross profit margins are low, it indicates that the problem lies with these 2 numbers. In most cases, you will find that you've either set very low prices. Being a new entrepreneur, you want to compete with already established businesses. And so you might set low prices in order for you to enter the market, but that will affect your gross profit margin. And so if you want to improve your gross profit margin, you need to look at your sales prices and look at a value-driven pricing methodology, as I explained in my previous video. Consider increasing your prices upwards. That way you're going to improve your gross profit margin. The other reason could be that your employees are not attentive to the cost of the raw materials that are involved in producing your product or your service. And this is resulting in high costs compared to the selling price for the finished product. And so you will need to look at retaining control of your direct costs so as to improve your gross profit margin. This is because if your costs are higher than the price you are selling your product or service for, it means that for every sale you are making, you're actually losing out money. So you need to make sure that you retain control of your direct costs so as to improve your gross profit margin. This will entail that you need to put in cost control measures to stop any leakages or inefficiencies in your production. The second reason why gross profit margin is very important is that gross profit margin helps you to understand how fast your business can grow. When you're a new entrepreneur, you're very eager to know, when am I going to grow big? How fast can my business grow? If you look at your gross profit margin, you can actually tell exactly when your business can start growing. This is because your gross profit margin will indicate to you what else you can afford after taking into account the direct costs that are related to producing your product or service. When you look at your gross profit margin or percentage, you're able to know the balance that remains for other expenses, such as extra human resource, extra purchases for capital equipment, and any other extra costs that you may need for you to expand your business. So focusing on the gross profit margin helps you to determine how fast your business can grow. Closely linked to this is also when your business can break even. To break even is when your sales match your expenses exactly and there's no profit or loss. So by looking at your gross profit margin, you are able to know when your business is going to break even. In fact, you can actually pinpoint an exact date when your business will break even. So gross profit margin is extremely important in helping you assess the performance of your business, how fast your business can grow. It also helps you to know whether your prices are set correctly, as well as whether you are retaining control of your costs. So how often do you check your numbers? How often do you actually look at your gross profit margin? From today going forward, I urge you to let your numbers be your CEO or your board of directors. Before you make any decision on how to grow your business, whether to spend on a certain administrative cost, you need to consider your gross profit margin. Let it be your advisor or your board of directors. So before you make any decision, consult your board of directors. Look at your financial reports. Look at the gross profit margin and let it help you in making financial decisions in your business. You can no longer make decisions about your business without considering or consulting your board of directors, who are your numbers, all right? And once you understand how your business is performing by reading your financial reports, you may not need to do so much selling. You could actually just tweak the numbers a little bit. You might consider increasing your prices so as to improve your margins, or you might focus on controlling your costs so as to improve your margins. And you can do this without additional cost of advertising and marketing. And just by controlling these two numbers, that is your sales prices and your costs, your gross profit margin is going to improve greatly. And so I encourage you to have a set of reports that helps you determine what your gross profit margin is on a monthly basis and use this number to make decisions going forward. But then how do you get started having or creating these reports? Well, there are a few things that you can do. You can watch my previous videos where I've gone into the depths of how you can actually set up an accounting system. But to summarize, you need to keep a record of your daily sales and your direct costs, as well as your general administrative expenses. And then every month create a report that analyzes your sales minus your direct expenses and then minus your general and administrative costs. That way you are able to know what your gross profit margin is as well as your net profit margin. Now, you don't just end at computing this figure. You need to compare it to the previous months so that you know whether you are in alignment with what your desired gross profit margin should be. Are you in alignment with the industry standard, or do you need to improve if your gross profit margin is lower than expected? and also compare with your competitors if you can get that information as well. Look at what your competitors' gross profit margins are, because then you will know what the normal gross profit margin is for your industry. Well, there's a lot that I can say on gross profit margin, but I'm going to end here for today. If you are interested in learning more, I offer courses on finance training, and you can always join me on one of my courses by following us on www.insightpartnersafrica.com and finding out more on what finance programs we offer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found valuable insights that you're going to start applying in your business today. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you can be reminded whenever I have a YouTube video out. Thank you so much and see you next time.